Episode 2. So, today, basically the idea was I decided to go muck about with Copperheads. And just like last time, I failed to find Copperheads. But hey, at least this time I found moccasins, and that's closer. Does that say a less shitty production? I don't know about all that. So, as it turns out, there's something just a little bit unnerving about walking around with a backpack full of moccasins. But, it's a good night. So, here's a nice up-close view of today's subject, the Cottonmouth. A very misunderstood animal. As you can see, they're not aggressive. She wants nothing more than to figure out what I am, trying to taste the air and see what's going on. She hasn't taken a swing at me once. None of the animals I've had encountered out here have. And there's a lot of misidentification between water snakes and cottonmouths as well. They get that name from a display they do. I'll try to see if I can get one of them to do it later. Though I feel kind of bad because it involves agitating them. But might as well get the imagery. You can see she wants to come over here. Let's say hi. Like a big old skinny puppy dog. Let's check out my bag of goodies. The main thing we have in here is a water snake. This guy is not a cottonmouth. He poses no danger to you. Of course, as you can see with the cottonmouth, neither do they really, unless you like step on it or grab it and squeeze it tight. It just cares to be away from you. These guys, though, you grab one of these guys, they'll take a swing at you pretty quick, but it's not going to do anything. They just eat fish and things. But what they will do, behind the camera, I'll show you. They'll take the side of their head right there, and they'll widen their jaws outward to give themselves more of that pit viper triangular shape to their head, and they will also flatten out their ribs to give themselves that girthy pit viper look to try to intimidate predators. So they can often be misidentified, but neither of which really means you any harm, and they'll all just run and stay out of your way if you give them the chance. I really don't know where the misconception of being chased by them comes from, but a lot of people will mention it. People again and again, they'll either tell you a story of somebody else that did, or you can talk to people with first-hand accounts that say it's happened to them. But the thing is, it doesn't happen. It's not part of their behavior. So there's something going on with the way psychologically humans believe this is happening to them. I'm not saying they're completely seeing things, but even with my experiences going after snakes, many times they'll be committed in where they're running to get away from you. And even if that area is behind you, if it seems safe to them, they'll commit to going toward it and not stop when you're in front of them. So in many circumstances, they're probably just going to their place to hide from you, but it happens to be behind you. But they tame down so quick. Like it didn't take long before this guy just knows I mean him no harm. Took a few whacks at me. I haven't been pinching him or trying to eat him. Now he just doesn't care. He's just a sweetie. Here you can see a specimen in his natural habitat. Cottonmouths or water moccasins are not actually restricted to water habitats. They are semi-aquatic, but they can perfectly happily live in any environment so long as there is a suitable amount of moisture. And they are opportunistic predators that will happily munch on whatever they can find around, whether that be their normal fare of fish, frogs, and the like, or just grabbing something like a mouse or a small squirrel. It's all fair game for them. You can see him here tasting the air, trying to see what's around him as he seeks to better understand his environment. If you saw the last episode, you'll be familiar with what's going on with all these millipedes in the background. Cottonmouths are also the largest species within their genus. Some adult specimens have been found at lengths over 71 inches, weighing in at over 10 pounds. They are quite a heavy-bodied snake. A regular adult specimen can be found coming in at around 31 inches, though that size does vary more in what is common, depending on what locale you are finding. There's 3 regularly accepted standard subvarieties of cottonmouth. The Florida cottonmouth, the western cottonmouth, and the eastern cottonmouth. On a side note, I've just learned if you say cottonmouth too many times, it starts to sound funky. The cottonmouth derives its common name from a behavior it exhibits when threatened. It'll coil up, look up at whatever the threat is, and open its mouth, exposing the white insides and its fangs to the potential predator. It's meant to serve as a warning to say, back off, you're not going to like it if I bite you. The scientific name of Echistrodon piscivorus is translated into curved fang fish eater. Obviously coming from the fact that a lot of their diet comes from fish when they are living in their traditional aquatic environment. Cottonmouths are actually the only semi-aquatic pit viper in the world, though not fully aquatic like a sea snake, or I would say even as water appreciating as the water snake. They are remarkably well suited to their water environment and have been known to even traverse small parts of the sea to manage to inhabit islands off the coast of America. Doing this also requires them to traverse salt water, which is something they've been known to be tolerant of, which is kind of an impressive feat for what they are. Not only are they a viper that's taken to water, being the only one to do so, but they've taken it far enough to have salt tolerance. When it comes to the venom, the part to be concerned about are the cytotoxic compounds found within. These cytotoxins are what cause the tissue loss and necrosis in the victim. Although, on a worldly scale, their venom is far less toxic than what's found in the lipids in other parts of the world, such as Australia. When it comes to the actual experience of dealing with the ramifications of a bite, from what I have seen, it seems that assuming you receive proper medical attention, your experience is actually going to be worse from an American pit viper, such as a cottonmouth or a copperhead, just because of the fact that you're less likely to actually receive the antivenom when you go to the hospital, and you may be forced to just try to ride it out. And even after you get through it, you have to damage those parts of your body that you have to deal with after the fact, rather than it being more of a you die or you don't kind of deal. Because, mark my words, you're not going to die. It's very unlikely. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, seeing as I very well may be. It's just from the bit of research that I've done over time, I think it's kind of an odd thing worth noting that it seems that your actual experience of being venomated is actually far worse on some of the less venomous varieties than on the more venomous ones. Sure, you're pretty much guaranteed not to die with these, but you're also pretty much guaranteed to have a few weeks of it kind of sucking to be you. It's probably worth reiterating, though, that this is not a reason to fear these animals, to hate them, or to kill them. They want nothing to do with you. They'd prefer flee, leave you alone, and not bite you. They're not coming after you or your family. Don't step on them or pinch them, and you'll be okay. While on the topic of venom, it's worth noting that the individual we are watching right now is a juvenile. And they can actually be more dangerous if you get them to bite you, because they haven't learned proper venom control yet. A lot of adult snakes will intentionally deliver dry bites or bites with less venom when they're defending themselves, because they need that venom to kill their prey. It'd be a waste to use it on you, but juveniles have not learned this yet. You'll also notice he has more striking coloration to him. It helps him blend in with the leaf litter and avoid predation. And if you can get a look, maybe on one of these better angles later, you will see how his tail has a lighter color to it to look like a worm or something. They can wiggle that while they sit and wait, and then when something comes to try to eat it, they will then eat the frog or lizard or what have you that may have come to try to eat the worm that really was their tail. Cottonmouths are endemic to the southern United States. So, that's a pretty fun fact for those of us that live around here. I myself am about to head off to Australia, and I'm quite excited for that. All the interesting reptiles and things that are there, and how that's held to kind of be the pinnacle. But this is something we have right here at home that nobody else has. A semi-aquatic pit viper. A creature that breaks the rules and is being pretty successful doing it. In this clip, you should be able to see his tail clearly right there where it has the lure. And if you go back and observe on the medium-sized individual in the previous footage, you can see that that one has a bit of a tail like that too. It's much more faded because the other one has left adolescence a while ago, but it still hasn't completely gone away. Anyway, there's still tons more interesting facts about these guys, and lots that I've left out. I'll probably make a follow-up or a part 2 at some point, but now seems as good a time as any to end today's adventure. I hope you learned something, or at least found this entertaining. Here's some extra footage illustrating the differences in the way that the water snake swims. You see how he goes underwater? Water snakes can also swim on top of the water. It's not foolproof to tell the difference, but you can definitely see how much more at home in the water he is than Cottonmouth. So as it turns out, snakes can be some downright cheeky bastards, and they'll lock you out of your truck. Then you're stuck, hoping you got a buddy that'll come find you in the middle of the night on the side of the road. Careful when you close your door. Or just avoid modern vehicles, maybe. This is some bullshit.